welcome everyone. I'm very happy to see so many of you online and here and so much interest. This is our first event for 2026. I also welcome all of you that are online. This is a side event for the Partnership Forum. The room situation is really competitive, so we were approved to have a hybrid meeting. And it really is an honor for me to be accompanied by the co-facilitators, the host, only missing Nepal because it's the president of ECOSOC, but it's wonderful. So it has been 7 months in Sevilla, and we really can only say that the imperative remains. The Secretary General, in speaking of his 2026 priorities last week, he reminded us we must advance on last year's Sevilla Commitment, which set out an ambitious agenda to scale up finance, address the debt crisis, and reform the international financial architecture. All of this so that developing countries can invest in the systems that support development and peace. This year, the Partnership Forum finds us in the midst of a deeply divided and troubled world. Therefore, the forum's intention to focus on new ideas. I'm sorry, could you mute yourselves if you're. So this is the idea, to bring all stakeholders together in the year up to Sevilla. We really try to reach out to foundations, to civil society, to everyone, and the fact that many of you are here, it's a testimony to that. We have a very, very good example of partnerships, which is the Sevilla Platform of Action. It really was a very important addition to the conference. It really shown how there's so much commitment, so many different actors, and this is why we want to talk about that today. It is then my honor to give the floor to Spain. The permanent representative wasn't his way, but he had a last minute thing, so Raquel is representing him. Please, Raquel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Maria Angela, and thank you, colleagues, for convening this side event today, for having us here. Again, apologies on behalf of my ambassador who couldn't make it last minute, so I'm here to deliver some of his remarks. Fully agree with what you, Maria Angela, said. Last year in Sevilla, the international community sent a clear message, and that was one, to reaffirm multilateralism and global solidarity. Right? That was our main takeaway. But more specifically on the FFD agenda, what our main conclusion of the different debates that we had, of course, the negotiated outcome, was that closing the SDG financing gap is not only a matter of resources, right, but one of collective action, shared responsibility, and practical implementation. And that was our thinking behind the Sevilla Platform for Action. Right? Already during the negotiations of the Compromiso de Sevilla, co-facilitators here present were mentioning how it had to be action-oriented. And that's what we heard loud and clear. We wanted a practical tool that could complement and could bring to action the political commitments. Right? So we had pretty much 3 reasons and 3 core ideas behind the Sevilla Platform for Action. One is precisely that, to have action beyond a negotiated text and design the SPA as a tool that is practical and a space where commitments are translated into concrete and voluntary initiatives. Second would be partnerships that bring everyone to the table, which is something that also was inspired by the Sevilla Commitment, where we can have governments, international organizations, civil society, private sector, philanthropy, everyone, so that the SPA offers an open and inclusive framework to align all the efforts on their impact, especially in a context of declining ODA, a difficult context for development. And then thirdly, to seize early momentum after FFD right, and on the understanding that there's no time to lose, no time to spare, and move from agreement to action. As you saw from the 275, if I'm not mistaken, early initiatives that we gathered we managed to cluster some of them to make them more effective and to bring everyone to speak to each other. And they came down to 130 initiatives that were presented already in Sevilla, and they cover pretty much all the areas in the Sevilla Commitment, from mobilizing sustainable investment, to strengthening domestic resource mobilization, international tax cooperation, the challenges or addressing advancing reforms at the international financial architecture. And they were all presented. They had their space in Sevilla, but the SPA is not a one-off. The idea, or that is the commitment from Spain, is to make it a living tool that will grow, adapt, and respond to emerging needs. So you can for sure count on our commitment to continue supporting this process, politically, institutionally, and through continued engagement. We ourselves, as a member state, presented 13 initiatives, and they all range from tax to beyond GDP, along with other partners, of course, on gender financing and global health. And we are working with partners to present some updates as well on all those initiatives, and encourage other members and partners that have not done to reach out and join those initiatives. You may have seen, but colleagues from DESA will explain later on, that we are reaching partners and focal points to update the information so that it fits into the whole ECOSOC track. So in that regard, allow me to again encourage voluntary reporting so that we all can share our different progress and the different initiatives and foster the follow-up and continue the debates and the negotiations. One last piece of update on my end, precisely because we have that commitment, we intend to organize a high-level side event during the FFD forum, which will mirror the SPA event or the SPA side event that we had in Sevilla, to continue the conversations along the SPAs and see how all the initiatives can bring up more food for thought to the table of the FFD forum. And to sum up, just to add that we stand ready to continue working with all of you to ensure that implementation delivers real results for sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really good, and to know that you want to continue, because we're saying that in Sevilla and the forum, that's phenomenal. So the next part of our program, we will have an update on the Sevilla Platform of Action initiatives, and that will be done by our colleague Jackie. Please, Jackie.
Thank you very much, Mariangela. It's a pleasure to be here. So here in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to give a little update adding to what the webcast about. There'll be 3 parts: how we started, where we are now, and where we're going next. And then, so just a little bit of recap of what happened. I mean, Raquel already mentioned that we have 130 initiatives exactly in this part. This is after we merging some of the initiative and also rejected some initiative, maybe not necessarily be too relevant for the conference. So we have 130 initiative and involve 204 lead entities in this 130 initiative. And here in this chart, you can see that this is really, as Raquel says, really a multi-stakeholder partnership platform. And then we have 49 civil societies working with countries across all income levels, and also we have 74 UN entities and international organizations involved in this platform. And at Sevilla, 43 initiatives was announced, and that involved 80 lead entities, a lot of the UN member states, the AU, EU, 5 of the MDBs, and also 12 UN entities, and also more partners. And as Raquel mentioned, it covers all the action areas. One of the main action areas that has a lot of SPA, the supporting is private capital, private business and finance, and then with a specific focus on private capital mobilization. And then, but you can also see that there's a lot of initiative working on international development cooperation, on domestic public resources, and also on debt. And this is where we are now. We opened a reporting window for initiative to report the progress in December. And then this window just recently closed about a week ago. And we have very happy to say that 100 of the 130 initiatives have provided updates on the initiative, including new partners, new endorsers, new entities, and also in some cases changes in some of the areas they're focusing on. And then 85 of these 100 initiatives also reported progress in implementations. So we're seeing that after 7 months of the Sevilla conference, there's a lot of active engagement in Sevilla platform for action. And just looking at the early, so reported progress from the initiative, we roughly categorize this progress of implementation into 5 areas. So one is operationalization of platforms and alliances. And here we want to highlight the global hub for development swap that Spain has launched together with the bank. So now they already have digital platforms on the World Bank website with the goal of sharing experiences and also providing technical assistance. And then we also have another Spain launch event, which is a launch initiative, which is the Debt Post Clause Alliance. So the alliance has been working on developing a template for debt post clauses and also to promote the adoption of these clauses, including by the private creditors. And the second areas that we can see there's the implementation, which is pipeline development support and investment mobilizations. So here we see a few initiatives has already indicated that they were able to mobilize quite a bit of financing for investment in developing countries. One of the initiatives by UNDP has reported they have mobilized over 200 million for financing for countries in the Arab states. And then the third areas is what we call technical guidance standards and frameworks. So these are initiatives that develop standards mostly in private capital mobilizations and how to support public and private sectors working together to mobilize resources for developing countries. Fourth is on institutional market engagement. So this, we see a lot of initiatives and reported workshops, roundtables around the world, engaging both public and private sectors, actors. And the last one is evidence generation, learning and capacity building. So one of the initiatives by NGO called Entrepreneurship for Women reported they had engaged over 80,000 women in training on tech platform. So this is where we're going next. And I think I'm touching a lot of points that Raquel has mentioned. So three steps for the next steps for SPA. So first is to help initiative to deliver impact. So here the main action here so far is to bring visibilities to these initiatives. So many of you might know that we have a SPA page and the SPA registry where you can find all the information about the SPA initiative, including the reported progress will be reflected in this registry. So by highlighting this initiative, we aim to help the initiative to mobilize partnerships, resources, and also political support. And the second is to facilitate collaboration among initiatives. So this is where Raquel mentioned about merging initiative. And we're happy to say that there are quite a few of the private capital mobilization initiative have been talking together and trying to do something together. Also, there's another 2 initiatives on social protection have been just told us that they decided to merge initiatives. So we're already working in that direction in terms of helping the initiative to work together. And the last bit is to saturate SPA meaningfully in the FFD ecosystem. So one of the things would be what Raquel mentioned, that we have the high-level event that we're planning for the FFD forum, but we also aim to link the FFD process to what's happening on the ground, including to what the regional commissions are doing, and also to the UN country teams and the UN RC system. So this is where we are now. And this is where you can get more information about SPA. We have a page, and we also have an email address that we check regularly. So if there's any ideas for SPA, please reach out to us with this contact information. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, 100 of 130 initiatives reported back. So it was really, really something that they have decided to do, to implement, and many others have come after, and we will continue with this. But this comes in the midst of very difficult environment, and also many questions from some about the momentum that the Sevilla Commitment had. So today I want to ask Oliver. I want to ask Oliver to please moderate with our distinguished colleagues, and also to please get to what they feel and what they see that the SPA may do, and also where the Sevilla Commitment is going in there. Thank you so much, Oliver, the chief of the one of the branches that produces the Financing for Sustainable Development report.
Great. Thank you, Mariangela, and good afternoon, colleagues. Pleasure to be here. So I have the privilege to moderate this wonderful panel where we will talk about collective action to bridge the SDG financing gap. So it's all about implementing the Sevilla Commitment. Let me introduce first our panel. So we have first Her Excellency Merete Brattestad, who's the permanent representative of Norway and was one of the co-facilitators of the Sevilla Commitment. Our second panelist, Her Excellency Ms. Alicia von Rostro-Massieu, the deputy permanent representative of Mexico and another co-facilitator of the Sevilla Commitment. And then we have two panelists online, Hussein Hirshi, who is a senior program officer at the Gates Foundation, and Anita Thomas, and she's here in her role as chair of the NGO Committee on Financing for Development. So a wonderful rounded panel to talk about where we are in implementing Sevilla and the Sevilla Platform for Action initiatives. Let me start first with Ambassador Brattestad. We have two questions prepared for you. First, from your perspective, what do you see as the most important gains of the Sevilla Commitment, and how can they help drive progress on the financing agenda in 2026? And as Mariangela already said, we of course are working on implementing this in a very difficult global context, many challenges to multilateralism. And I think in that context, it's particularly interesting to think about the platform and these initiatives that bring together coalitions of the willing, of interested actors that can take forward action, even when maybe today it's not always possible to have universal consensus. So how do you see those initiatives contributing? And maybe you want to speak about some of the initiatives you are involved in.
Yeah, maybe two of them.
Okay,
but actually, Oliver, you gave part of the answer to your question, but I shall repeat some of it and try to put it into our own context. But it's really nice to be back in this room where I have spent a lot of time, so with a bit of a different group of people. But I want to echo also what Raquel said at the start. I mean, the conference in Sevilla was a landmark moment. It really was, and indeed a rare highlight in these very challenging times for multilateralism. So yes, we are incredibly proud to have played a part in that. And I think to recap, I mean, with the Compromiso de Sevilla, we have a shared framework for reforming the international financial architecture, for catalyzing investment at scale, for mobilizing resources from a range of sources, and for addressing challenges related to debt and other key topics under the FFD agenda. And then, as you have all said, what matters now is ensuring that the Sevilla Commitment does not remain merely a piece of paper, but instead is a tool that drives meaningful, tangible change. So Norway is fully committed to doing our part in this regard. And I really want to commend also the leadership of Spain in establishing the Sevilla Platform of Action, because the SPA is not the sole path for implementing the outcome document, but it offers a very valuable and distinctive way of working. So in particular, the SPA initiatives help create coalitions of the ambitious that are willing to move beyond the general consensus from the outcome document. The SPA initiatives also bring together actors across sectors that do not always naturally meet in traditional forms. And the SPA initiatives helps us maintain a focus on practical, concrete follow-up derived from the commitments in the Sevilla outcome document. So then let me give you two SPA initiatives where Norway serves as a co-lead and as concrete examples of this. I mean, the first one is basically older than the Sevilla outcome document. That's the Addis tax initiative, where we have been a proud member since it was first launched at the third Financing for Development conference in Addis in 2015. And the Addis tax initiative committed development partners to collectively double technical assistance for domestic resource mobilization by 2020. And since then, the Addis tax initiative has been a vital organizing platform to uphold commitments and to advance the domestic resource mobilization agenda. So we are very pleased that this is now incorporated into the SPA and serves as a key vehicle for implementing the domestic revenue pillar of the Compromiso. As a concrete follow-up from Sevilla, Norway has increased funding for domestic resource mobilization in our 2026 budget, and we are on track to redouble this support by 2030, in line with the Sevilla target. And our second concrete example, we have from the very outset been actively engaged as a leading country, I would say, of the SPA initiative, FFD4, and the future of data, strengthening systems for sustainable financing. So data and statistics are of utmost importance across the whole FFD agenda, including for tax collection, private investment, risk ratings, debt management, anti-corruption efforts, and more. So the initiative's first meeting, held in September last year, brought together participants from nearly 50 countries and organizations and connected the data and statistics community with the FFD community. So building these bridges is essential if we are to succeed in implementing FFD4. And we will actively work to follow up this initiative and engage in several other SPA initiatives as well. Now, the Sevilla Platform of Action is still relatively new. Many initiatives are still working to define their role and their value added. And also, as you mentioned, emerging initiatives is also taking place. And I think that's very good, because we should avoid duplicating or replacing what is already effectively addressed elsewhere, and instead utilize the potential that lies in building coalitions of those that are willing to take ambitious and value-added action. So let me just close by informing you that we are just recently launched a process to update our international development policy. The aim is not to reduce ambition or reduce resources, but to adapt our policies to a rapidly changing landscape. And the Compromiso de Sevilla will serve as a key reference point as we shape our future policy for international development. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your reflections. I think you've picked some examples that really underline the complementarity of the platform with the Sevilla Commitment. And that is always how we understood it, that these initiatives can help implement commitments that are in the text. So you don't need to see these as competing processes. They are very complementary. And thank you for those examples, and also for Norway's very concrete efforts to implement or to deliver on those commitments. Let me go to our second speaker, Her Excellency Ms. Alicia Massieu, EPR of Mexico, another one of the co-facilitators of those negotiations. Same questions to you, really. What do you see as the key achievements of Sevilla that can help drive progress in this difficult environment? And how do you see the initiatives of the SPA complementing? Maybe you can give some examples.
Sure.
Mexico's initiatives too.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Oliver, and thank you, Maria Angela. No, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And same as Merete, this room brings us back, to many memories, where we were working together for so many months. So thank you, Des and Spain, of course, my fellow co-facilitators. I think it's important to have this discussion, particularly after 7 months after Sevilla Commitment. So we believe from a Mexican perspective, how important, the importance that we give to financing for development since the very beginning, since the first launching of the first conference back in 2002. So we, as Merete said, we believe that the Conference on Financing for Development, the fourth one, marked a critical moment in multilateralism, and precisely, because of the difficulties that we have, the geopolitical tensions that we see, and the challenges. It was really, I think it was a very important step forward. I think that we worked diligently in order to be able to produce such conditions that would favor the results that we were able to bring to Sevilla. In that regard, the adoption of the Sevilla Commitment reaffirmed that financing for sustainable development is not an abstract exercise, but a practical framework to deliver concrete results for people. We have already mentioned several, Merete mentioned several of them. Implementation, as usual, in any exercise of multilateralism where we identify the highest standards, is about implementation. And that is our shared priority. That's why we're here. And in this context, the Sevilla Platform of Action plays a central role. We believe as well that Spain was critical in this regard, and because it translates political commitments into real operational initiatives and strengthen partnerships at the same time as it supports countries in turning the outcome document into real progress on the ground. Now, Mexico is proud to be at the forefront as well of these efforts. And currently, I would like to share with you two efforts that currently Mexico leads, two Sevilla Platform of Action initiatives that respond to the priorities that we identify in FFP for outcome document. So first one is Mexico is leading the Financial Social Protection Initiative. This initiative focuses on a core commitment of the Sevilla outcome document, which is mobilizing domestic and international resources to build universal social protection systems. It supports country-driven efforts to progressively expand social protection coverage by at least 2 percentage points per year in line with international social security standards, as set out in paragraph 22J of the outcome document. And Mexico's leadership in this initiative is grounded on experience. Between 2015 and 2022, my country increased social protection coverage by more than 2 percentage points per year, meeting the target it now promotes globally. So we remain committed to sustaining and expanding this progress and ensure the well-being and resilience of our population. Second, Mexico is leading the Investing in Care for Equality and Prosperity initiative. The FFD for outcome makes a clear call for urgent action to address persistent inequalities and to significantly increase public and private investments in the care economy. It recognizes the need to value, to redistribute, and reduce the disproportionate burden of unpaid care and domestic work borne by women in all their diversity. This is an issue that we brought to the United Nations several years ago. We have made progress on it, and Mexico has championed this issue, which we believe it's very important. So we, as I said, we believe that adapting our financing systems to 21st realities requires placing care at the heart of development strategies. And in particular, because this was something that was really lagging behind, because it's been many decades without this recognition, without moving forward, without creating the policies, the structure for the protection of the care economy. And this initiative is not isolated. It aligns with existing global and regional frameworks and strengthens coherence across international commitments. But additionally, I would like to mention, besides these two leadership roles, that Mexico endorses 8 additional initiatives in the Sevilla Platform for Action, and we will start working on them in a very concrete way as well. One is the Beyond GDP Global Alliance. Secondly is Bridging Data Systems for Financing for Development. And the other one is the Future of Development Cooperation Commission, the Capacity Building for Financing Sustainable Development, the Integrated Financing for Development, Climate and Nature, the Risk to Resilience Finance, Financing Climate Resilience, and the Zero Adolescent Pregnancy Movement. So these are some of the many initiatives that demonstrate the breadth and the ambition of the Sevilla platform as a mechanism for collective implementation. And these efforts show as well what is possible when political commitment is matched with partnerships, technical cooperation, and shared responsibility. But as always, implementation is an ongoing process. We start from scratch, or not from scratch, but from little beginnings, and then it has to move forward. And the fact that we're here today is because we need to focus that. It's not anymore about coming here to the United Nations, agreeing on something, and then, get out of the rooms and everybody forgets about this. I mean, if we're here, it's because we believe in what financing for development has to do in the international agenda, and it's our responsibility to keep with the implementation. So we're here because we believe that the momentum of Sevilla needs to keep on going. We must keep building alliances, scaling successful initiatives. We are very creative, so I'm pretty sure that new initiatives are always there, and identifying new partnerships as well. So my country, of course, looks forward to working with all of you to advance the implementation of the Sevilla Commitment, and we remain fully committed and open to new partners, to new ideas and strategies to deliver the results that our populations need. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your remarks and for sharing with us some of the work you're doing on implementing those initiatives. I think by now we get a nice picture of just how varied these are and how they really cover all of the action areas. This is something I can preview. We will report on in the upcoming report of the Interagency Task Force. We did a mapping of the initiatives and how they map to the paragraphs in the Sevilla Commitment. And it's very nice to see that for many of the actions in the document, there is concrete initiatives that are working on implementation. 109. Yeah. And I also like the example of the care economy. I think that is one of those issues, since this is a side event to the partnership forum, that partners and stakeholders really brought to the process and insisted on including in the document. And it's an example, I think, of the process also being very inclusive and the document reflecting that. With that, let me go to our third panelist. Welcome to Hussein Hirji. He's a senior program officer at the Gates Foundation and leads the foundation's work with the UN, focused on multilateral initiatives and partnerships. Hussein, maybe you can switch on your camera so we can see you.
Sure. Can you see me? My camera is on here.
Okay, yes, now we can see you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Great.
Thank you for joining us. My questions to you are very similar to the questions to the ambassadors, but maybe you can focus particularly on the role of these initiatives and how you think they can advance Sevilla implementation. I know the Gates Foundation is very active also in some of those initiatives, and how more generally you think the role of multi-stakeholder partnership, the role of actors beyond member states in implementing Sevilla. Over to you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Oliver, and thanks to your team for the excellent partnership throughout the process leading up to Sevilla and during, and the leadership in continuing engagement beyond the conference. My responses are very similar to those we've heard from the Excellency of the ambassadors of Spain and Mexico, because the Sevilla Platform for Action really was an innovative addition to the conference, and for organizations like ours, the Gates Foundation, it is a unique platform where we can join alongside like-minded member states, international organizations to push particular parts of the agenda forward, particularly between some of the larger conferences. So this morning I was tuning into the partnership forum, which you just referenced, and we heard the DSG call for the actions and momentum, agreed to today in the halls of the ECOSOC chamber and trusteeship to carry on beyond. And I think the prescience of the SPAs were that the hosts and the co-facilitators were able to come up with a structure that provides that sustained action to last well beyond the summer's impactful agreement and conference. And I fully agree with the ambassador from Norway that it was a uniquely high moment in the in the multilateral space in a difficult year. So let me share 3 ways in which it is already playing a meaningful role. So as I alluded to, the SPAs do bring a new and more inclusive model of partnership to the table. Some initiatives may have been under discussion before Sevilla and FFD4, but many wouldn't have launched, and it's very unlikely they would have had that sustained measurement that your team is providing through the secretariat function, and that provides visibility, political backing, and accountability to each other in order to push that through. So by putting these initiatives under FFD4, they benefit from strong participation from all member states, importantly from the Global South, and ensuring that priorities and design are co-owned and not narrowly defined. One example is that our partner Convergence launched a project which is seeking to standardize some of the more effective blended finance models and partnering closely with UN agencies in that process. The second innovative point is and I think this reflects well with some of the conversations coming out of Davos last week, is that particularly in the interregnum between some of the large moments, so before the next major conference, we may need to see some form of mini-lateralism, or in the words of, I'm Canadian, so in the words of my Prime Minister, the variable geometry in the periods in between to sustain some of that higher momentum. So alongside the universal agreements like the Sevilla Compromise, we will likely need to see some of these smaller purpose-driven coalitions and willing partners come together to solve concrete problems and provide momentum in the period in between. So this is the innovation of the SPAs, is that they operate within the multilateral system, giving these coalitions legitimacy within the framework, while allowing them to, one, interact with organizations like ours and to move faster and often more pragmatically. So as someone who spent time both inside and outside of these processes, I do think these multi-stakeholder groups are crucial to sustain momentum on these key priorities, particularly at times when the world is changing very rapidly around us. So third, when it comes to financing at the Gates Foundation, we've always seen value in groups of member states coming together around dedicated financing vehicles to advance shared priorities. So vertical funds, for us, global health is, of course, a priority. So historically, vertical funds such as Gavi and the Global Fund have demonstrated how pooled financing, aligned governance, and sustained political commitment can deliver truly transformative results, sometimes with former recipients becoming contributors over time. The SPA initiatives across the board reflect the similarly changing world, and with sustained support from their champions, they can also become important vehicles for progress in their respective areas. I'm happy to speak a little bit to some of the initiatives that we supported, but I can save that for a later round as well.
Oh, I mean, Jose, why don't you mention it now, and then if there are questions, people know what they can ask you about.
Sure, absolutely. So we were this lead implementer for one of the entities and sustain an endorsing entity for two. The one I'll speak mostly to is at the time of the SPA, it was called the Commission on the Future of Development Cooperation, and many of the countries represented in the room were endorsing countries to that. Since then, it's now branded as the Coalition on the Future of Development Cooperation, and it is now officially launched and housed between two think tanks, the Center for Global Development, as well as the African Center for Economic Transformation. And it will be led by two co-chairs. The head of the secretariat has been selected and is in place, Alexia Latortu, and she received significant interest in participation in the coalition. So she is narrowing down a very esteemed list of potential commissioners, and that will be drawing down some of the experience and trying to cover as much ground as possible. It is launched within the framework of FFD, but there will be a number of thematic areas that she's trying to cover there. But it has been launched, and it is fairly arm's length, so I don't have the day-to-day updates in terms of commissioners, etc. But I'm happy to report that it is being implemented and fully launched. I will put a link in the chat where the status of that commission is currently live. It's sitting at one of the think tanks, the Center for Global Development, and a couple of blog posts have been posted there, and that's where further information will come online as well.
Great, thank you so much, Hussein. And yeah, we had Alexia here in New York in December in an event, and we'd expect more engagement in the lead up to the Development Cooperation Forum next spring on that commission. But thanks for your intervention and these updates. I'll go to our last panelist, last but not least, Anita Thomas, who's the chair of the NGO Committee on Financing for Development. Anita, you've been following the FFD process for a while, definitely prior to Sevilla also. So I'm very curious to hear also your perspective on the Sevilla Commitment implementation, but also on the specific role that these multi-stakeholder partnerships in the SPA can play in implementing the Sevilla Commitment. Anita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Oliver, for the kind introduction and for the opportunity to share some views on behalf of the NGO Committee on FFD. I also thank Mariangela and Sharon for the invitation to contribute to this panel. The committee values its long-standing collaboration with the Financing for Sustainable Development Office, which dates back to 2004, and appreciates the continued engagement and support that enable meaningful civil society participation in the FFD processes. The Sevilla Platform for Action reflects an important recognition that closing the SDG financing gap will require collective action and goes beyond policy commitments, and very much in line with the objectives of the Partnership Forum towards innovative partnerships that aim to mobilize commitments and actions to advance the 2030 agenda. From the NGO Committee perspective, informed in part by discussions held at a side event that we convened at the last high-level political forum, the value of SPA lies in its ability to serve as a practical bridge between intergovernmental commitments and implementation on the ground. It does so by operating as an enabling platform for voluntary multi-stakeholder initiatives and partnerships, effectively similar to an incubator, providing space for partners to develop ideas, build partnerships, and offer practical entry points to support delivery around agreed FFD commitments without creating new norms, governance structures, or parallel processes. And given the expectation from the SPA, from an NGO committee perspective, it is important to underscore that it is not identified in the compromiso as a formal framework or means of implementation, and that the compromiso remains the intergovernmentally negotiated foundation for FFD, guiding implementation, follow-up, and accountability across the UN system. Accordingly, the SPA should be understood as an important voluntary and facilitative space whose relevance derives from its alignment with commitments already agreed by member state. Participating stakeholders underscore concrete activities such as mobilizing resources, providing technical assistance, piloting approaches, or producing time-bound outputs, helping translate areas of readiness into practice while generating experience and learning that can inform future intergovernmental discussions, in our opinion. So this alignment can be seen across several sustainable development goals, as already mentioned by several of the speakers. But in light of the Partnership Forum, I'll focus on the SPA initiatives related to the goals currently under consideration at this Partnership Forum. For Goal 6, Clean Water and Sanitation, country-led integrated financing platforms supported through the SPA demonstrate how water-related investments can be embedded within broader national financing strategies. Egypt's Nexus of Water, Food and Energy platform, aligned with its integrated national financing framework, reflects the Sevilla emphasis on country-driven integrated approaches to mobilizing and aligning finance across sectors. For Goal 7, on affordable and clean energy, the India-Germany platform for investment in renewable energy worldwide illustrates how voluntary international cooperation can help mobilize and scale private investment in clean energy in line with the Sevilla priorities while respecting nationally determined development strategies. For Goal 9, on industry, innovation, infrastructure, the Blue Dot Network highlights how improving the quality, transparency, and sustainability of infrastructure projects can help crowd in long-term capital, reflecting Sevilla priorities related to sustainable infrastructure and lowering the cost of capital. And lastly, for Goal 11 on sustainable cities and communities, the UN Habitat commitments on cooperation with international financial institutions, UN entities, and local and regional governments underscore the importance of subnational finance. It reflects the Sevilla recognition that effective implementation requires coherence across levels of governance and stronger financing capacity at the local level. Taken together, these examples, as well as the sharing by previous speakers, illustrate how SPA initiatives can support implementation across sectors and levels while remaining firmly anchored in priorities agreed by member states under the Sevilla Compromiso. At the same time, alignment is not automatic and must remain an ongoing focus. Severe financial constraints continue to limit implementation in many developing countries, high borrowing costs, rising debt service, limited fiscal space, and so forth. And recent policy analysis that's underscored that an excessive emphasis on de-risking and private capital mobilization, if not carefully balanced, can unintentionally weaken the role of public finance and fiscal space in sustainable development. This reinforces the importance of ensuring that SPA initiatives remain closely linked to the systemic reforms and international cooperation measures agreed in the Sevilla Compromiso. There's also, we may caution the need to avoid blurred roles. Clear articulation of how each initiative contributes those commitments is therefore critical to maintaining coherence, accountability, and member state ownership. And we are happy to hear that there's going to be a report, and so looking forward to reviewing and coming back with any other suggestions. So looking ahead, 4 priorities stand out for us. First, explicit and transparent alignment with the Sevilla Compromiso. Second, a stronger emphasis on country-driven priorities and inclusiveness. Third, greater transparency and shared learning to inform intergovernmental follow-up without creating parallel processes. And fourth, while the Sevilla platform action is not identified in the Compromiso as a formal means, as I already mentioned, can serve as a catalyst for generating momentum, partnerships, and resources in support delivery. And in this regard, civil society organization can be crucial partners, and emphasis on follow-up assessment and the translation of voluntary commitments into meaningful outcomes, including by monitoring, reporting, and so forth. And we really look forward to collaborating and stand ready to support in any way we can as NGOs with voices and ears on the ground in marginalized and poor communities. So in closing, the Sevilla Commitment reaffirms the central role of multilateral cooperation in advancing financing for development and by anchoring action in shared priorities and collective responsibility. It strengthens the prospects for progress towards the 2030 agenda, even in this very highly constrained situation. And so we are excited. We congratulate the co-facilitators for their efforts to everything to get all this completed in a timely manner and moving ahead and looking ahead with a robust enthusiasm and action. So we support the Financing for Sustainable Development Office in all this regard. So thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anita, for this intervention and for highlighting how many of these initiatives very concretely support SDG implementation. I think that's a nice additional dimension you brought in. And thank you also for underlining again the importance of thinking of the Sevilla Commitment as the main intergovernmentally agreed outcome. And you will see, rest assured, this is what you will see reflected in, for example, our reporting in the forum. We all understand that this is what governments agreed. And then we think of the SPA initiatives as complementary steps that help implementation of that same commitment. So fully agreed on that as well, and on the importance of keeping that very clear in our minds. With that, we have around 20 minutes, I think, for an interactive discussion. So I will open the floor to all of you here in the room and also to colleagues that have connected online to ask questions to our panelists, but also maybe to share experiences. I can see some of you are involved in a leading role in specific initiatives. So it would be interesting also to hear from you on progress you've made, on challenges and gaps maybe that you still see in implementation, but also for us to think collectively what the next phase of SPA implementation should include, what this platform could grow into. We are very open, and I know Raquel had to leave, but they are listening, and we are very working closely with our colleagues in Spain. We are all curious to hear from all of you how this platform could grow further and could maintain its relevance and be able to support the implementation of the Sevilla Commitment. So the floor is open to any comments, questions, suggestions from all of you. Yes, please. You can all introduce yourself.
But of course, thank you very much. José Scanducci from the mission of Brazil. Thank you very much for the invitation, a very good discussion. Brazil from the beginning has been very supportive of the SPAs. We think it was very smart and pragmatic initiative or idea to help the implementation of such a large document with hundreds of commitments. So the idea of having like plurilateral or groups of countries and multi-stakeholders in specific initiatives, I think it was very welcome. And Brazil itself has launched in Sevilla with Spain and South Africa, and Oxfam a initiative on taxing the super rich, and we have been trying to move forward with some ideas in different fora. My only comment, and maybe I would like to hear from the panelists on this, is that the idea of reinforcing, strengthening the SPAs, I think, should not detract from our commitment to undertake all the other commitments in the document. And I'm thinking specifically on the systemic ones, as the last panelist was saying. There are many commitments here in our Sevilla document that are the responsibility of the multilateral system. And some of them are really here in New York. So, for instance, we are thinking of, if you take Article, I think it's paragraph 28 of the Sevilla Commitment, there is the reinforcement of the negotiations on the framework for a tax, cooperation tax matters in the UN. There's also the idea of a global beneficial ownership registry. So my idea is my comment is that, I don't know your opinion on to avoid that this very smart idea of having SPAs should not represent a fragmentation of initiatives that would, so to speak, weaken a little the multilateral efforts that we should continue to undertake here in New York. So if we want to give a strong message in favor of multilateralism at this point in time, we do think that the SPA should be connected with these multilateral efforts here in New York. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's collect a few and then we'll return to our panelists. Is there anyone else in the room? Yes, please.
Thanks. Thank you, Oliver. Thomas Schnell from the OECD. Perhaps I want to continue where our Brazilian colleague finished, and I think this is a very good point. From a more personal point of view, I came here to New York in January, and I started to get into this process. And I would have never thought that we will finish so successfully, not only with a very cohesive and excellent political declaration, but also with these concrete and operational sub initiatives, and the co-chairs, and this deserves a lot of credit for that, I have to say. Multilateral, we want to be among those, as the Norwegian colleague said, who are ambitious. And multilateralism, of course, is not only here in the UN, we want to push here in the UN, but any cooperation in a multilateral context, I think we need that today, be it in Paris, be it here, be it in Washington. I think this is extremely important and is an important political signal. We want to be ambitious, as I said, for the initiatives. We have a few of them where we want to particularly be active and participate in. One is, it has already been mentioned by the Mexican ambassador, the Global Alliance Beyond GDP, under the lead of Spain and together with UNCTAD and the Ibero-American General Secretariat. This is important. We are working on an action plan here quite successfully and hope we can deliver concrete results. We are working on the interoperability of data. It's not only anymore about or to measure the ODA flow from developing countries or older countries, DAC member countries, to developing or recipient countries. But we have now, as you know, various actors. We have South-South cooperation, we have triangular cooperation. I see Duarte, Portugal is very much in the lead on that. So this matters to us also. And a third element also linked to development is our ongoing review process of the Development Assistance Committee. We want to deliver results here, concrete results till the end of the year. We try to have this as a very inclusive exercise. A lot of countries here in New York are included in this process. I see Zambia, for example, the ambassador is alternate delegate for the least developed countries. So this is really an exercise or a process, a review process, which is very broad-based. And it has been mentioned, and there I come to an end. At the end of the day, we have to monitor the whole process. We have to see where we succeed, where we do not succeed. And therefore, collecting data, feeding data, monitoring, I think this is also an exercise or important for us, for the OECD, and wherever we can contribute here. And our data will feed also in the interagency task force. We will stand ready to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And yes, indeed, you are contributing to that very systematically across the action areas through your contributions to the Financing for Sustainable Development report. I have one colleague on the screen, Ketan Patel from the Force for Good Foundation. Is that right, Ketan? Over to you, please.
That's correct. Thank you very much. Firstly, congratulations for the great event in Seville. I think it was a watershed moment, and the actions since then have demonstrated that the world can flow around rocks and find routes to success. I wanted just briefly to say that if I could add something to the agenda for us to think about, the capital markets, equities and debt together represent approximately $250 trillion of capital. If we can figure out how to turn needs into opportunities that are investable, we will find that there is more capital than we could possibly need to fund the developments that we are thinking about. Every other form of capital, whether it is DFI capital, public-private partnerships, and so on, is smaller than this number. And the capital markets, of course, have proven elusive to many countries. In our latest work in the Force for Good report, we identify ways that we might be able to do that. And if we could add this to the agenda, we would be targeting the biggest capital pool in the world to see if we can access that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ketan. Yeah, very important point. Any more? Yes, Robert, please.
I'm not going to talk about the SPA. I'm not actually even going to talk about the Sevilla Commitment. Sorry, Robert Powell from the International Monetary Fund. But obviously, the Sevilla Conference triggered within the International Monetary Fund an important internal discussion of what the IMF can do for the very important agenda, the FFD agenda. And we had a long year process going on roughly at the same time as the process here. Now I've shared with everyone the papers coming out of this on multiple occasions. I think it's important. I think the one important thing to flag there is that the outcome of those discussions, which happened at the same time as Seville, was a consensus. The documents came up with a consensus. All the member countries, that's all 191 member countries, agreed with the outcome and the assessment there, and the work plan that came out of it. And then afterwards, we had a work plan addressing many of the issues that are there in the Seville Commitment. So it's very complementary to the Seville process. And I think that's really important to in the same way that the SPA is complementary to the Seville process, or to the Seville Commitment. The work of say, the IMF and possibly other institutions as well is also very much complementary. And by October, we had gone through our global policy agenda, which is our work plan, which addresses many of the issues raised in Seville. So strengthening surveillance, a big debt agenda. I won't go through all the details. It's all in the papers out there. I know Oliver's very familiar with it, but mobilizing resources, as we've heard, the whole three-pillar approach, which again has consensus from the full international community. So pushing ahead with that is very important. Work at the Sovereign Debt Roundtable, the review of debt sustainability in low-income countries, trying to double our concessional lending capacity, PRGT reforms. Again, that's something we're pushing ahead with. So positive implementation of action rooted in the FFD process. And of course, all the ways we're trying to strengthen the architecture. So make sure the fund remains a strong and agile institution, like the surveillance review, program and design and conditionality, those reviews. And financial sector assessment programs are all being reviewed. So there's a lot going on. My message to a lot of meetings, and I'll be saying this at the coordination segment tomorrow, is it's really important for foreign ministries and finance ministries to collaborate, and to coordinate, and to talk to each other. Because if you're saying different things in New York and you're saying in Washington, it really doesn't help. So that collaboration is really important. It's why the visit that we're organizing of the Bureau down to Washington and then the executive directors from the Bretton Woods institutions coming back here is so, so important, because it can allow the member countries to get on the same page. I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. I'm saying, you don't always say the same things. There is consensus, much more consensus in Washington than there is in New York, typically. And I think that's important to acknowledge. Maybe I'll leave it there just to say that, from the processes that are going on in Washington, there is a lot of movement forward on the FFD agenda, and there is consensus from all the membership behind it. So it's important to, as we're having these discussions, acknowledge that there's things going on elsewhere.
Great. Thank you, Robert. And indeed, we'll have the chance to have this exchange in April in the FFD forum, in the meeting.
And in a couple of weeks in Washington.
For a smaller group.
Yeah, for a smaller group. Yeah. Not the whole year.
And I also agree the fact that these discussions aren't always easy between the foreign ministries of finance just shows how important they are.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because these are both decision makers and they need to come together to discuss these issues. Okay, if I don't think any more urgent requests, let me give a chance to Roger. Did you want to come in?
Yeah,
Sorry, I
sure.
didn't see you.
You prompted me into intervening. Duarte Valente from the Permission of Portugal. For those who don't know me, pleased to be here at the event. No, just perhaps to turn us more towards a more positive note, and since we're in the larger context of the ECOSOC cycle, just to say two things. One thing that I'm encouraged to see the forthcoming IETF report and see how that reports on the implementation and follow-up to the Sevilla Commitment. Obviously, the Sevilla Commitment is the product of the intergovernmental process, and that is fundamental to the fulfillment of our commitments. But again, and to lend my voice of support to what has been said already here in the room, that the SPA is also crucial to the implementation of those very same commitments, because there are times where the coalitions of the willing, as has also been said, are so crucial to that very same result. We have the digital archive online, and your kudos obviously to the FSDO for putting that together. That allows us to go through the shopping list of SPA initiatives. Also in the larger perspective of getting acquainted with those initiatives and possibly joining those initiatives in the medium to long term, because fulfilling those commitments will necessarily take some time. But also a word of expression of hope that ECOSOC Forum itself will be a space for member states and other stakeholders, not only to showcase the progress that they've already achieved, and share that with others, because success and progress generates interest in the progress itself, and that's how we'll implement the Sevilla Commitment itself. But also to share that Portugal itself has endorsed a number of SPA initiatives, from the Risk to Resilience, the CSML here, from the Beyond GDP Alliance. We also have one on MVI together with Spain and France, who is also here in the room, amongst many others. We're looking forward to continue pushing forward those agendas and report on the progress on these initiatives, and we hope that other member states do that as well, because again, it's in showcase of progress that we generate the necessary.
Thank you so much, Duarte. Yeah, indeed. So I think Raquel already mentioned we are planning to have a high-level side event specifically on the platform, on the sidelines of the forum. And then, of course, we expect the initiatives to come up organically when we talk about the specific commitments and issues, whenever they are relevant. This is what we see in the task force work, that in many of the commitments that we follow up on from the political declaration, there are relevant initiatives that are supporting progress. So in that context, then of course they will be part of those discussions as well. I didn't hear so many questions, but I still wanted to give an opportunity for our panelists if they want to share any reflections. Maybe we'll do it in the same order. Yeah.
Well, at least I took notes. No, but thank you so much, because I think for me, the most important thing about the Compromiso de Sevilla is, of course, that it was agreed, but also that it's about mobilizing finance from all sources. There's not one silver bullet here. There's not one thing that's going to solve it for any of us. So this is important. And I agree so much with my Brazilian colleague that no, the SPAs cannot be the only thing. It's a very important complement and coalitions of the more than willing on some of these subjects. But if we look at the Compromiso itself, there's text on everything. And there are lots of systemic issues. And here, Robert took my main point. We need a whole of government approach. We all need to say that to our capitals. It is about countries speaking in the different boardrooms they are represented with a similar voice. So I would hope Norway says the same thing at the UN, at the OECD DAC committee, at the World Bank, at the IMF. I'm sure we didn't always, but this process has actually, in our case, helped to have our finance ministries and our foreign ministries work much more closely together, because I think our OECD colleague is completely correct. Not all this multilateralism happens at the UN in New York. It happens in many organizations where we all are members, and we need to sort of have a whole of government approach to this one. That would help. Thank you.
Very good. Well, yeah, in our case, I would say as well that when we started with with planning the compromiso, we set out a work plan that allowed us to hear from everybody, stakeholders from all around. So we got the ideas and the questions, issues that were concerning different stakeholders when it had to do with financing for development. So really, the outcome represents all those ideas. And I think as well, as Robert Powell said as well, we also were able to set a good trend in to enhance the dialogue between financial institutions and ourselves. There's a lot much more to be done, I would say, in that regard. But at least I think that we were able to take a deep dive, and we're able to understand each other better, understand what can we do together. And I think that dialogue, as you mentioned, we're going to be in February in Washington, D.C., shall continue. And it's on a different perspective, because it's about really trying to get results for everybody, particularly at the times we're living in, And then I would also like to say as well, there was another idea that I wanted to share with you, which is showcasing that inclusive partnerships within an issue is so impactful to the individual is the way to go. And that is something that we should have, very much embedded in the work that we do. And in this regard, I think when I look back, that the outcome was a very good outcome, because it really involved everything, all stakeholders, interests, and so on, in a particular, very complicated juncture. And at the time when our countries need a lot when it has to come with financing for development.
Great. Thank you, Ambassador. Hussein, Anita, any final reflections from your side?
Sure, I'll jump in with just a quick point. I did want to build on the delegate from Portugal's point that these are part of various cycles that are ongoing, and the FFD cycle within the ECOSOC cycle, we're going to have a process to select a new Secretary General this year. The time is ticking towards 2030, and then the building of a new agenda after that. Because unfortunately, we're not going to be meeting the full scope of the SDGs. So putting this work in that context is important for all of us, and especially in making sure our governments and our foundations are aligned in all the conversations that we're a part of. And then also just to underscore the point that these SPA initiatives and minilateralism are complementary in our view of the larger multilateral processes, but they do certainly help sustain that momentum, and that's why they're big opportunities for us to engage, and we'll continue to do so. And last point, in the time of constrained resources, which also doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon, I think a next Secretary General, other influential leaders will be looking at where our countries putting their money, and seeing the evidence of that will be crucial in determining which aspects of the various agendas get attention in the years ahead. So that's all. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was an excellent point. So rest assured, the FFT process was there before all of these, and it will continue long as we'll be here. Anita?
Yeah, just 2 points. One is to ensure the SPA remains grounded in Sevilla Commitment, and this could be done by translating the commitment from a high-level declaration into clear operational criteria, and tying the various SPA initiatives to that. The NGO committee is doing that. Actually, we're doing a mapping, and happy to share some of our insights with you. Secondly, it'll be good to take stock of what has actually worked in the UN system. There have been similar coalitions have been set up in the past, the impact coalitions, the action impact coalition associated with the generation equality, the action coalition with the summit of the future, and to look at what has worked. They are not tied to outcome documents, but they are essentially, multilateral cooperation across these priorities. And so it'll be good to look at what has worked, what has not worked, and maybe take some of those lessons as to strengthen the SPA outcome. So I'll stop there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We did do that a little bit. I think one advantage we have in the SPA is indeed the close link to the FFT process and the sustained engagement that happens through the regular annual follow-up. And that's, I think, also the opportunity to keep the initiatives alive, because there'll be these moments where everyone comes together to think about progress in the agenda. Colleagues, thank you so much to our panelists. Maybe we can give them a round of applause. We are also in time, though it does feel like we are running out of oxygen a little bit. But we have two more speakers. So first, it's our pleasure to invite Victor Kabwe, who's the Chargé d'Affaires in the Permanent Mission of Zambia, to share a few thoughts about what's next in implementing the Sevilla Commitment.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Excellencies, distinguished participants, it is gratifying to have this useful engagement towards implementation of the Sevilla Commitment. I wish to thank the earlier speakers, discussants, and the audience here and online for such a lively discussion. I will add that Zambia views itself and our fellow co-hosts of this important side event as champions for FFD4 implementation, meaning we want to see faster progress in getting more SDGs on track beyond the 35% presently obtaining. This means we must address the $4.3 trillion SDG financing gap. This means we continue advancing momentum towards implementing the Sevilla Commitment. All stakeholders will continue to have a critical role to play. The Sevilla platform for action remains important in elevating initiatives led by other stakeholders beyond member states in advancing the Sevilla Commitment. It must be encouraged to forge ahead with concrete actions, and opportunities should be provided to showcase progress in these initiatives. Secondly, we need to continue to motivate discourse on FFD4 and the Sevilla Commitment. Engagements focusing on action, discussions on various elements of the Sevilla Commitment at various levels will continue being important to advance momentum and collective action in this regard. As Zambia, with Mexico, Ireland, and Korea, be launching the Group of Friends Development Cooperation Effectiveness tomorrow and have extended an invitation to other member states to join us in pushing forward the effectiveness agenda, a key value add of the Sevilla Commitment. In March, Mexico will convene the 10th annual retreat of the Group of Friends of Ontario. Such initiatives must go forward. DESA has a critical role to play in supporting our ambition to move from commitments to action. Engagements on credit rating, financial integrity, the broader FFD follow-up forum, and even the high-level political forum must continue to elevate the core to action in bridging the SDG financing gap. And beyond these engagements, the 2027 SDG Summit will build on these foundations to take us forward. What is important in all these engagements is ensuring follow-through, action, and impact. And Zambia believes all of us here and joining us online are well aligned with this goal. I think let me hand over to Mariangela just to highlight how implementation of Sevilla looks like.
Thank you so much. I would like to share one slide so that you can see it while I'm talking. This is the roadmap that we have of intergovernmental discussions, of retreats, of the launch of the FSDR. We will be very busy this first part of the year. The next invitation is to come to the special meeting on financial integrity. We will distribute this. I will put this in the website also. There are many, many spaces in which we will continue to interact. And I think this particular side event came about thinking how to link all the different conversations that are happening at the UN through the ECOSOC cycle. So we plan to do other side events in the Youth Forum, in the STI Forum, as much as capacity allows, because we need to put all the voices in this roadmap. I feel like we have the vision in Sevilla, we have the plans, and we have kind of the moments in which all those discussions can kind of be presented and discussed openly. But we also have a work plan. Like what I feel in this meeting is that everybody that spoke was talking about what they're doing, how they are advancing themselves, how they see others advancing. And this momentum is really makes me very happy to be amongst friends that we were here a lot in the trying to get this document done. And by the way, there are some copies here. But it really feels like we all know what we need to do. We have specific plans. We are going to have the SDG Investment Fair parallel to the forum, that this time is going to have more of a international business forum feel, meaning that it will have opportunities for countries to present their projects, but it would have more discussions, like really what's the private sector and the public sector interaction. How can they really make it work for increasing SDG investment from all sources, but also collaborating with those that have their own incentives, but we need to bring everybody together. So I want to thank very much Oliver, Jackie, and obviously Merete, Alicia, Victor, Spain, the Gates Foundation, Anita, and also Robert. We have also the co-chairs represented in Portugal. Like, it really feels like we are all owning this agenda, and this makes me tremendously happy. And I really wish you a happy new year. Let's take the year with this as a start. Like, let's have the optimism and energy that I feel that everybody is building up. Thank you so much.